This is little Elena. She's finally here. It's that tiny little girl. Well, that little precious bundle of joy was born to us 6 days ago. She's 6 days old, and it is the whole thing. We call her our miracle baby because the whole thing was a miracle. And I thought I'd share a little bit about the whole process of what went down and give you kind of an update on how she's doing. So when Katie was about 18 weeks along, we found out there was something wrong with the baby, not right. A little before that, I can't remember exactly when it was, we actually thought we lost the baby. Katie actually started having a lot of bleeding and issues. One day, I wasn't even home. I was with the kids doing hunter safety classes and got a text, and she let me know she thought she was losing the baby. So as soon as we were done, I rushed home real quick, got her, ran to the hospital, and they checked everything out, and to our surprise, the baby was still alive. So Katie's Rh negative with blood type, so they had to give her a RhoGAM shot just to make sure everything was okay with the baby, but we weren't sure what was going on. It turned out she had a subchronic hemorrhage, I think is what it's called. So she was put on light duty / bed rest for a little while. We didn't let her carry the baby, or I call him the baby. He's our baby. He's one, but he's heavy. So we kept her doing absolutely nothing, just trying to make sure everything was fine with the baby. So fast forward to 18 weeks, they saw something not right with the baby. About 22 weeks, they diagnosed her with arthrogryposis, I think is how it's said, AMC. So it's a condition that affects kids, their limbs, their ability to function with their hands and arms and legs and such. And it can go as far as affecting their whole body. Other stuff likes to attach itself to this disability. So it's not a disease, it's a disability. So it's not like it's a curable type deal. Basically, just muscles and stuff don't develop like they're supposed to. Instead, it's like a fibrous scar tissue almost. So they encouraged us not to look it up online and read anything about it because it's scary, and they didn't even know, the doctors didn't even really know that much about it. They just could see her leg, one of her legs was real stiff, one of her feet were clubbed, and her arms were kind of stuck out on sonograms. So of course, they gave us the option to abort, which we would never in a million years even consider, because life's precious, and God gives life, God takes life. We're not to be getting involved in that sort of thing. That's our belief. So we we didn't know what to expect. You know, they prepared us for the worst and said that Katie wouldn't be able to have her naturally. She was going to have a C-section, which was something we were nervous about. Never experienced it. I mean, this is our 13th child born, 16th pregnancy. For all the people that would say, "Oh, unlucky 13," hogwash. 16th pregnancy, and so we didn't know what to expect. So we fast forward up to, we got a date scheduled for last Thursday to have the C-section. And little by little, I mean, we've been praying over her. We've had the pastors pray for her. All of our friends and family have been praying for her. And I've never experienced anything quite like it in my life. Last week was probably the hardest, most challenging week, mentally, physically, and spiritually, of my entire life. And I was in a pretty low state last Wednesday. The devil had pretty much beat me down to where he wanted me. And I didn't realize it at the time that's what it was, but it was a massive spiritual battle, and it's unbelievable. Wow. You know, we prayed, Lord, give us the strength to get through this, because we're scared. We have no idea what to expect. We don't know what we can do. They told us she could be just handicapped all the way up to she may be on basically life support for the rest of her life in the hospital. So, you know, it wasn't like they give us the greatest news. Best case scenario, she would be in the NICU for 24 hours, but not likely. So Monday, which was Memorial Day, 2 of our kids came down sick with the stomach flu. And we weren't sure if it was the flu or if something they had touched in the garden with the manure and stuff and didn't wash their hands properly. But then another kid came down that night with the sickness. And we're like, great, here we are 2 days before having to go in and get this procedure in the hospital, and we've got sickness. We need babysitters. Who wants to babysit stomach bug kids? I mean, I wouldn't, you know. And we don't need it. Katie definitely don't need it. Having her stomach cut open and then having vomiting after, that's not going to be exciting. So we're praying and asking the Lord to heal us, you know, don't let anyone else get sick. 2 days later, so we were supposed to go in 6:30 a.m. Thursday. 2 o'clock, I'm puking in the bathroom. I'm sicker than a dog. Come to find out from Katie, apparently there's like 6, 7 other kids sick out there with it at the same time. And I'm just like, oh me, you know. This is not what we signed up for. You know, this just tops everything off. Like I say, I was so discouraged. I don't believe the Lord doesn't answer the prayers of his people. I really don't. I do believe we get no's. So you don't always give your kids everything they want. And it's the same way with God. Sometimes you tell your kids no because it's not in their best interest or not part of what you have in the plan, right? And it's the same with us. And I got a lot of no's last week. And I was feeling discouraged, very discouraged, spiritually beat down. And I'm like, here we are. We're trying to live right. We're trying to live for the Lord. Trying to be a good example to others, trying to have kids like he would want us to have, you know, trying to raise them the way that we should be raising them. And this is the thanks that we get. This is what we get in return, as if God owes us something, right? So I was not in the right mindset either. And then when I'm sick, I'm just like, this is ridiculous. I can't believe this. You know, can't we get one answered prayer with a yes? So I didn't throw up anymore from 2 o'clock. 6:30 comes. I'm just super careful. Sanitize everything. Load Katie up. We go to the hospital. I'm not feeling good. You know, I'm making trips to the bathroom in there. Only had one vomit session, and it was dry heaves, thankfully. But, you know, trying to be cautious, hand sanitizer, and not get anybody else infected around me. She ends up getting bumped with her surgery till noon because of an emergency they had to take care of before. And by that time I was able to keep little bits of Gatorade down, which was a blessing because I was not feeling very strong. And I think I was probably extremely green looking. Looking back at pictures now, I didn't look good at all. So she has the C-section, the baby's born, the baby's crying, which was a huge blessing, because they didn't even know if her lungs were going to work. They didn't know how bad her muscles were affected, and they, you know, sucked her out, her airways out and everything. She weighed in at 6 pounds, 15 ounces. So she was not tiny, but she's not big. She's one of our smallest babies. Actually, I think she might have been the smallest baby by a few ounces. And so they took her to the NICU immediately after they let us see her. And one of her legs, her right leg, I believe it was laying up next to her face. So it was all the way up, stiff this way. All of the rest of them, we could see a little bit. Her fingers looked like they were moving. But basically this AMC, all of their joints and muscles are underdeveloped and kind of locked up. So we were like, okay, well, she didn't look as bad as we thought, because like her face and body, all of her core was perfect, and she was crying and she was moving her head. So we were really encouraged. And they took her to NICU. They had her on oxygen for just a couple hours, supplemental oxygen, and then they had her off. Like by the time we were allowed to go in and see her, she was off of her oxygen, and they're like, yeah, no, her numbers are fine, she's doing good, just monitoring her now. And they were tending to other babies, and our baby was fine. They were feeding her, you know. So we, the next day, Katie came down with a stomach bug in the hospital, and I'm just like, great, you know, this just tops off the week. Thank the Lord, though. She was being given pretty strong pain medicine, and they were giving her nausea medicine to keep her from getting sick from the pain meds, and that kept her from throwing up. So that was a tremendous blessing. If you can see a blessing in what seemed like a giant curse of a week, that was it. She did not throw up at all, and that would have not been good if she had. So we're thankful she got it when she did, where she was at, and it went well. So the next morning, we went in to check on her again. Met with the NICU doctors after they were doing their rounds. They assessed her and everything, and they were like, basically the head doctor asked the other ones, so why is she still in here? Doesn't sound like she even needs to be in ICU. She needs to be with her mama. Send her back to her room. And we were like, yeah, we think the same thing, you know. And she's like, yeah, I've never known a parent that would disagree with me on that, but it was really neat. So best case scenario was 24 hours, and that's about all she was in there, and that's just because it took her that long to get her transferred down to be with us. Technically, she didn't really even need to be in there. So that was a tremendous blessing. All of her digestion, her heart, all of that seems to be really good. They did an echo on her heart. They did x-rays on every single joint. Nothing was dislocated. So that's a huge blessing. We ended up meeting with the orthopedic surgeon, who has like 30 years experience. We're blessed. We live about 30 miles from the University of Florida Shands Teaching Hospital. It's a children's hospital as well. One of the best children's hospitals in the country, and we live this close. That's a huge blessing. And they've got some fantastic doctors. All of their nurses and doctors, staff, absolutely wonderful. Very helpful, very friendly, very knowledgeable. I've actually worked, back in my electrical days, I actually worked in that hospital doing some electrical, actually in the 9th floor maternity ward where we stayed. I actually worked up there doing a lot of the remodel to make that into a baby unit. So that was pretty neat. And back in those days, their food was amazing. Their cafeteria, I always looked forward to their breakfast. They had biscuits and gravy and bacon and fried taters, like the best breakfasts in the world. I think COVID wrecked all that because the food there was terrible. But as far as the staff, though, they were all great. So met with the orthopedic surgeon. He was very optimistic. He's like, hey, you know, basically, it's up to you what you want her to do. We're like, we want her to be as normal as possible. We're going to do anything and everything in our power to make that happen, you know. So he said, well, all of my patients that I work with, they all walk, no problem. And they can feed themselves and fend for themselves. So I have no worries there. He said her case is what I would consider severe, but it's only in the limbs. It's not anywhere like in the core of her body. So that was very encouraging to us. So happy to have that week behind us, not gonna lie. All of the kids are well now. Katie's well, I'm well. Looking back, I know it was nothing but a spiritual battle, just all out war on us, because, you know, what's the devil's goal? To steal, to kill, and to destroy. And he was working on all three of those on all of us last week, me especially. And I'm thankful for my wife. She is stronger than I am. Because I was, like I say, Wednesday I was beat down. I was just ready to cash in and give up. And it encouraged me to look back. So I saw, I don't really listen to preachers online or on the radio. It's just not a good idea, because you can't see the lives they live, and if they're actual living the way they are preaching, you know. It's important to know the preacher that you listen to. But I was pretty low. Found a sermon online about spiritual battles when I was kind of figuring out that's what it was. And I was encouraged. You know, the preacher mentioned Elijah, Job, Jonah, a lot of Apostle Paul, a lot of these people in the Bible, great men of God, had moments where they were so beat down they were just ready to die. They were done, and they asked the Lord to take them. They were over it. So I'm like, well, if somebody as great as one of those guys in the Bible can be beat down, I don't stand a chance. So it was encouraging to me, because I was starting to question everything about my whole life, you know. It's lunchtime for her, but so you can see her little arms and hands are kind of stiff, but she's got a good grip with her fingers. But both arms are the same. And then this little leg here was up here. Katie's actually been working with her, and she's got it where she'll keep it down quite a bit. And then this is the little foot that's clubbed the worst. They both are somewhat, but they are somewhat stiff, but like her knee does move now, and it didn't before. Same with that one. It's okay, baby. It's okay. But her lungs work good. I apologize for rambling so long. I just wanted to share kind of an update and encourage you guys, anybody that might be looking at the same or similar situation. It can look bad. You know, you may have a child that's been diagnosed with some kind of handicap or disease or sickness or nothing. I mean, something like that. Nothing's impossible for God to heal. But know that He may not heal them in this life. You know, He may have a different purpose, and we don't know what is in store for our baby girl. But we're going to do everything in our power to make sure she's as equipped and capable and able to live as normal of a life here on earth as possible in our power. Like, we're going to do everything we can. And we want to bring you guys along for the journey. You know, it can be difficult to share. Like, we don't know what to expect. So, and it can be difficult to work through that when you don't know what to expect. But just know, you know, there are other people in your situations and way worse. Through research, this condition, our baby's got it easy compared to a lot of these. So some babies are on ventilators permanently. Some are like totally handicapped, can't do anything. And our baby has a chance of living a somewhat normal life. So we're extremely grateful. And just because, you know, they have a handicap or they're not perfect in the world's eyes, doesn't mean they're not going to still be a blessing to you. She's already, at 6 days old, she's been such a blessing to our family and an encouragement to us. And our children love her to death. And we want our children to see, just because somebody's not perfect don't mean you still don't love them and show them affection. And they're not just as important as somebody that's perfect, you know. So anyway, we'll be doing more updates in the future. A lot of our big farm projects are kind of on hold for a week or so, just till Katie gets healed up and kind of back in a routine. I'm focused on, you know, getting her well and helping her out and watching the kids so she can get naps and stuff like that. So I'm fortunate to have a job to where my bosses are awesome. They have given me work flexibility to where if I need to take off to go and, you know, take the baby to therapy or something like that or Katie to an appointment, they let me do that, which is a huge blessing. So we already took Elena to therapy this morning. He's like a muscle massage therapist, and he really focuses on some of the causes for some of this and tries to focus on the cause instead of treating a symptom. So we were really encouraged with the session we had with him this morning. He worked with her a little bit, and we're already seeing improvements. So that leg that was sticking straight up is not up anymore, it's down. Her hands are grabbed, like if you put your finger in her hand, she'll grab your hand. That's huge. And her knees are bending a little bit now. So who knows? We don't know until she gets older what she'll be able to do and what she won't be able to do. And our goal is to make that as minimal as possible. So I think that's enough of my rambling. Thank y'all so much for watching, and we'll see you next time.